Okay guys, for this tutorial we're going to talk about adjustments and how to use them in Photoshop. So you've got two options when it comes to adjustments. I've opened up a picture and I'm going to show you those two options. Now your first option is up here. Okay, this is image up at the top and it's going to give you your adjustments in this nice little neat file. Now this adjustment is going to be permanent. It's going to be attached to the picture itself, which means you're really not going to be able to delete it or take it off later. Over here, if you look, you have an adjustments tab and you have all of these same adjustments, but what they're going to do is create an adjustment layer. Now this adjustment layer will allow you to get rid of it or edit it, or kind of gives you a little bit more freedom, but you really use that when you are dealing with multiple layers. So if I was stacking photos on top of photos on top of photos and I wanted to add an adjustment to the whole thing, okay, it would work like that. So when you're editing just one picture, your best bet, okay, is to do it up here at the top, and this is what I recommend. Now before we do anything, remember, like I said, we're going to duplicate our layer, so we can right click, duplicate layer, press OK, and we are going to turn off our background layer just in case we ever want to get back to it. So let's look at our adjustments. Brightness and contrast is pretty self-explanatory. So if I look at brightness and contrast, okay, it's going to take the bright out or put the bright in. Contrast is going to either move the darks and lights closer or move them farther away. So there's going to be less of a middle ground. Okay, so that's that. Now you'll always want to make sure this preview button is selected because that's going to give you the ability to see what you're doing as you're playing with these numbers. You also have an auto feature, so you can click that and it's going to automatically recommend what it wants. So let me go up here, image adjustments. The next one's levels, and we've talked about levels already, so by dragging these over you can adjust, okay, your light and your dark areas and then your midtone. Okay. Next is curves. Now curves is going to let you play with each color individually. So if I just wanted to adjust the red, like I think this is really red in some places, what I can do is I can play with the way this is shifted so I can add more red or add more green. Okay, to change it. Now we're going to cancel that because curves is a little bit complicated and I don't see you playing with it too much. Now other things could include exposure. So do you think your picture was underexposed, overexposed? Do you want to offset that exposure somehow? Is the gamma okay or not? And these are just more examples of how you can change your pictures. Now, when you get to Vibrance, okay, this is with how saturated your colors are. Do you want your colors to be more muted or do you want them to be more vibrant? Okay, that's really easy. So is it a lot of color? Is it a little bit of color? Is it very soft color? It just depends on the mood of your picture. Okay, hue and saturation. This is, once again, do you want a lot of color? Do you want a little bit of color? Do you want it light? Do you want it dark? And then what colors? Do you want those colors to be realistic? Do you want them not? And this is going to be important in a few minutes and I'll show you. Okay, so as I keep going down the list, our next one is color balance. So like I said, if you thought this was being more orange or red, you could bring some more blues in to kind of balance that out. If you wanted more green tones, you could bring those in, more magentas, more yellows, more blues. And you would just keep playing with it until you find something that really speaks to you. So black and white, that's obvious. You turn your picture black and white. Okay. Adjustments. Photo filter is one of my favorites because what it does is it gives you the effect to warm or cool or add like an undertone to a picture without overdoing it. So for instance, my picture right now looks pretty warm. So I can either warm it up even more by picking a specific color. So if I want it to be more yellow or orange or red, I can do that. Or if I want it to be cooler, I can use a cooling filter, or I can add a color like blue or violet or sepia to change the tone even more. You can even change the density. So this is my original picture, and to me it has more of an orange tone. And to get it back to a tone I like, I think I'm going to apply a blue photo filter. So I can go to photo filter. I'm going to try maybe sienna. And you see how my whites look more white now? They look more like clean. And I like that. So I can play with it this way. Obviously that's too much. Or move it down. So you can do it slightly. You can do a little bit. And you can see the difference right there. And just a little bit more to it. And I'm going to press OK because I like those tones better. Other things you can do. You have a channel mixer. So once again, you can play with like the different tones or colors. Okay, you can invert your colors. Okay, you could posterize. So if you want to break it down to just a specific number of levels, you can. See how it's posterized now? Okay, you could do a threshold. So this is if you wanted to print like a black and white image and you just wanted the basic information, or if you were doing a stencil, because you could do that color, and then that layer of color, and then that layer of color to create a stencil. Okay, and there's tons and tons of different things for you to choose. Well, those are the ones that we tend to use the most in here. Now, there are things like shadows and highlights, HDR toning. You can desaturate it, so I just took all the colors out of just that level. But for the most part, in this class, you're going to be using your levels, you're going to be using your photo filter, you might use black and white or human saturation. And we'll get more into this with some of the later tutorials, but those are the adjustments that you'll be using for the most part in this class. When you like what you have, never save over your original, but file, save as, and then remember it's your name and then whatever your picture is. So this is Ainsley. Save once as a PSD. And then we like to save it as again as a JPEG. Okay, hopefully that helped you with your adjustments.